Hello.
Hello. I'm so excited. We're finally doing a cult episode. Thank you for humoring me and doing some research on the topic of cults.
Why are you singing?
I'm excited and a
So,
little drunk.
yeah. Hello, weirdos, and welcome back to Weirdly Human, another episode where we talk about all those weird things that make us human. I'm Elle, and this is Candace.
Hello.
And we're here to teach you how to start a cult so that you actually don't join a cult.
Today is kind of bittersweet because I've always wanted to do an episode about cults.
I know, you have nagged me and dogged me about doing the episode about cults since the beginning.
I originally wanted our podcast to be about cults, sort of like My Favorite Murder, but my favorite cult. All right, we wanted to talk about cults. So here we are. Well, let's start with defining cult. Then what is a cult?
Okay, well, this got a little tricky. I went to Google and I put in, definition of a cult, and guess what? There's a ton of different definitions.
Ooh.
Yeah, but the one I liked the best was a group of people with extreme dedication to a leader or a set of beliefs, with practices regarded by others as unorthodox or extremist. Now, a lot of words there, but basically, what is this? It's a group that are doing things that are outside the norms of our typical belief systems.
Okay. So people of different faiths often think that other religions are strange or sinister or extremist. So what's the difference between a religion and a cult?
Time. Actually, that's often a joke and a meme, but it's kind of true. I mean, Christianity was considered a cult a long time ago when it first started.
Sure. It has everything: virgin births, crucifixions, charismatic leader, right? Okay, so I'm not an anthropologist, but all ancient cultures seem to have some sort of religion. Are we hardwired that way? Is wanting to believe in a higher power weirdly human?
Well, sort of, yeah. Not just to explain the unknown, but there's a huge benefit to being part of a group, which is well known and well documented in literature. Religion gives people purpose and helps them find purpose, which we know is important for happiness. And most religions will accept you. All you have to do is believe, and studies show it's actually good for you. Religious people have lower rates of suicide, lower rates of alcohol and drug use. I'm not sure if that's because they're happier or because most religions frown on those things. Either way, it's a positive outcome.
Okay, so it sounds like the difference between a religion and a cult then is outcome.
Well, I don't know about that. Look, wars are fought because of religion, and cult members can reap the mental health rewards of belonging to the group.
Well, can you get these same benefits by joining another group, like a softball team or a service organization like Rotary?
Yeah, for sure. If it's a close group of people you feel supported by and it gives your life purpose, then I don't see why not. So, just for you, my friend, I watched the 4-hour-long Heaven's Gate documentary, and OMG.
Was that Netflix?
Yes.
In case they want to watch.
In case they want to, yes. Okay. It was, what was it called? It was The Cult of Cults, Heaven's Gate.
Okay. All right.
On Netflix, yes.
No, I watched it because I'm fascinated. How do these adults, with most of them had means, most of them were educated, how did they accept this dogma? Because they believe their God basically is an alien riding around on a spaceship. And I forget how they got to this place, but Hail Bop was a sign that the spaceship was coming and they needed to leave their human forms so that they could catch this spaceship. Well, then all of this sounds really far out, but we're talking about human beings who behave in predictable ways and they are educated. And how did they recruit for this cult? And if you watch the documentary, actually, they had a really hard time recruiting for this.
Well,
cult.
and it took a long time. So when I was watching the documentary, they started recruiting in the 70s. And, as much as we joked at the beginning as you wouldn't lead with the UFOs, they did. They put out these flyers to get people to come to these informational meetings, and they basically said UFOs.
Right. Yeah, I saw the one flyer. It just said said UFO really big.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my ex-husband would have gone to that meeting though, because he'd be like, "Oh, it said UFOs. Like, who are they coming for? Where are they? Do they exist?" And
Right.
he would have had to go find out.
Well, I think I would have had to go find out. I am curious enough. It wouldn't have been, time consuming or way out of my way.
A lot of traffic.
A lot of traffic,
Yeah.
bad time of day. I probably would have gone just to satisfy my curiosity of who are these people and why in the world would they be touting this stuff.
Right. Whereas my ex-husband might have stayed though. And
I would have just been lurking in the background trying not to laugh out loud.
are the people who joined this cult that different from the people who are in the Bigfoot Society and just sort of really want these things to be true?
That's a great question. And if I think about going back in time, I mean, I was a child in the 70s. I really don't know kind of where the mindset was for these people. They did get a little group of followers. From what the documentary said, the man and the woman who were leaders, they promoted that they were going to have to shed their humanness and transform or be transported, perhaps, up to the spaceship. How they sold people on that idea is murky to me.
Right. And it's the core group from the 70s is mostly who followed them all the way up through Hale-Bopp, where these people actually committed suicide so that they could catch the spaceship. But they had recruitment drives.
They did.
And
which were less successful.
They were less successful
after the first round.
And more people, they actually showed some footage of these meetings and people would show up, but then they would ask
questions.
Yes, they reacted how you might expect a rational person to react. And they either asked questions or they got up and walked out. And it was really this core group from the 70s that went all the way through.
Well, they called themselves the class. I do think there was that group mentality. I think they thought they were very special and that they were working towards this goal. One of the things that bothered me watching it was the regimented lifestyle. They wanted to shed their humanness. So anything that was indicative of being human, they felt they needed to get rid of. So they dressed very similar in almost a uniform type style. They all cut their hair very short, even the women. They looked the same. They had to do things in the same way.
I'm picturing myself as a creator, a benevolent creator. And why would I create a species of humans who needed to overcome their humanness in order to be rewarded in the afterlife? And when I say overcome their humanness, like you said, they were very regimented. Also, sex and masturbation were not allowed.
Not okay.
This one man they kept interviewing, he had left the group, but not because after 18 years he decided he'd had enough or that he didn't believe this anymore. But basically, he could not stop having nocturnal emissions and he could not stop masturbating.
So true.
And he thought it was better for the mission and for the group if he left. and I think that's when they were talking about overcoming their humanness. He just was not able to overcome his humanness.
Right.
And I'm thinking, why would our creator want us to overcome our humanness?
Yeah. Okay. Again, doesn't make sense to you and me.
Right. Okay.
So
sorry, I forgot that's what we're here for.
That's why we're here. And I can't, can we answer the question is why did it make sense for them? Probably not.
Well, okay. So I think you're onto something with maybe these are people who don't feel mainstream. In the 70s, nobody had an iPhone. I don't know. I'm not mainstream. I don't know what makes them feel mainstream. But so they didn't feel mainstream. I think they were trying to validate their own worldviews.
Well, maybe
Christianity wasn't it, or what their families taught them wasn't it. But things also seemed to head south when one of the leaders died. She had some sort of cancer.
Breast cancer, maybe? I'm not sure.
And it went pretty quickly, and she died.
That disrupted the apple cart for them. Because,
for sure.
Up until that point, the two leaders had been touting that the group was going to actually physically change. Like by changing their behaviors and changing their beliefs, their bodies would actually
they would physically
change. That's what I took from the
aliens.
Yes,
okay.
That's what I took from the documentary, that their bodies would actually chemically and physically change, and they would not be human anymore. They would now be alien and able to be, picked up by the next flyby of the UFO.
Sure.
However, when the female leader who called herself T, which I thought was also funny because it's from The Sound of Music.
Sure.
Anyway, when she passed away, that rocked the boat for the
Well-
rest of them. Her physical body, which they called the vehicle, died of this very human disease. And they really had to grapple with, okay, now how do we pivot our belief system?
They had to
fit?
rationalize
Yes,
it
they had
because
to-
for years and years they had given up everything.
Yes.
They'd given up their families. When they told everyone about this UFO cult that they were in, I'm sure they heard a lot of flack, and that's crazy.
Right.
And
What
they
are you
can't-
doing?
What are you doing? And they can't come home with their tails tucked like, yeah, T died. And it turned out, you guys were right. So
Yeah.
we're not going to do that. So what do? We rationalize it and we say, okay, well, it's more of a metaphorical change.
Right. Then it became more of a metaphorical change in that when they left their human bodies from death, we're going to say death because how else do you leave a human body? Then
As far
they
as we
would-
know, that's
right,
the way.
That's the way. Then they would ascend to be picked up by the aliens. Though the timing of the alien thing was always a little foggy to me as
Right,
well.
but there was going to be a sign, and,
Yes,
and
yes.
conveniently, Hale Bop was
Right.
coming. This you could see this comet with your naked eye. This was
Yes.
in the 90s, right?
Yes.
1990.
Oh, shoot, I had that. And
We're
I did,
bad
I
at trivia.
had- I know. I had that jotted down somewhere. And I
Hey,
don't
you remember if
Yeah.
you're as old as us.
If
so.
you're as old as us, you'll remember this. And so another thing that fed into their crazy was that there were other people that claimed that they saw through their telescopes a unidentified body that was supposedly several times as big as the Earth that was trailing Hale-Bopp. And there
Okay.
was a forged photo of this. The cult members go and buy an expensive telescope and they look at the comet and they can't see the extra thing
Mhm.
because it's not there.
Right.
It was forged. And they take the telescope back to the store and say, this is broken. It didn't work because we
Right.
can't see this thing.
So instead of that being evidence that they're
that they're wrong, right?
they take let that sink in. They took the telescope back and went ahead and killed themselves, just trusting and believing that this spaceship was there.
Was the sign.
That's
Yeah.
how powerful our confirmation bias is. That's how powerful when you believe something, when you are presented
Yes.
with evidence to the contrary, you will go out of your way to avoid that evidence. And that was the craziest part to me, was that they didn't say, oh, guys, there's nothing here. Maybe we shouldn't kill ourselves.
Right. Or, maybe we've castrated ourselves for no reason.
Right. They didn't want to say that. They did. Some
Right.
of them actually themselves, because they were having a hard time
Yes.
with the whole no sex thing.
And yes.
And to be fair, Heaven's Gate is actually not your traditional cult. I think a lot
True.
of them are a lot more pro-sex, which seems this is why they were having trouble recruiting.
Yes.
There's no sex. The
Right.
haircuts weren't
We're
great.
not stylish in any way. No. The clothing,
No.
not stylish.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things that I had to chuckle when I'm watching the documentary, because, this is not an uplifting or funny documentary.
No.
But when I'm watching it and they're doing the second and third rounds of trying to recruit new members, and the panel of members is up at front and they're touting this very monastic lifestyle, the camera pans to the audience and you see a group of, 20-something men, and you can see their eyes roll. Like,
Right.
no way am I going for that.
Oh, it was Nexium, I think, is the recent one they've been calling the sex cult Nexium. See that?
Oh, right.
That seems
Way more fun.
a lot easier to recruit people
Oh,
into.
for sure.
And with Scientology, you've got the face of Tom Cruise and
John Travolta.
And John Travolta. Who wouldn't want to join this cult? So Heaven's Gate's kind of an outlier in that they actually had trouble recruiting. They tried.
They did.
And the salesperson in me wants to help them out, right? I want to be like, okay, what worked in the 70s? What
will not work in the 80s and 90s.
Right. Exactly. Clearly this isn't working anymore.
Right.
And maybe, like you said, don't open with the alien stuff. I also wouldn't open with the no sex stuff. That
Right. We mentioned that several of the members, and I think there were 9 male members that did end up being castrated. The first one of that group, I mean, they did it in the garage. I think, why is that a good idea? Kind of doing a self tattoo, but a self castration? Ay, ay, ay.
I mean, you just put the rubber band around the cow balls, right? I don't know.
Right.
That's
Oh,
I don't
God.
think.
And after that, they actually sought out a physician to do this, and 8 more people did it. That's dedication.
That's almost as crazy, honestly, as killing yourself to catch the spaceship.
I think so.
Is that I keep having these desires. I'm not supposed to have these desires. Hey, if I cut off my balls, that will make it easier for me to not have these desires. And off the balls went.
Right.
At no time did they think,
Ah.
maybe Episcopalian's easier.
Scientology is easier at that point.
True, true. But what you don't know if you haven't seen Going Clear, which is a great documentary about Scientology, what you don't know is that not all members get the same treatment. So,
Oh, true.
surprisingly, John Travolta and
Tom Cruise.
Thank you. It's so bad names. John Travolta and Tom Cruise don't get the same treatment as the regular old Scientology people. So
Yeah.
they seem to be able to forego more of the hardship, the discomforts of Scientology. They get to live their lives, but now with the benefit of the Scientology mafia. That's a thing. They don't call themselves the Scientology mafia, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
But if you look it up.
All right, so just watch the Going Clear documentary from HBO. I think that was on HBO.
So Elle actually was a little concerned that the Scientology mafia was going to come after us
Hey, it could happen.
for this episode. I reassured her that we're actually nobodies, and
I think what you said was it would be flattering.
it would be flattering.
For them
Yes,
to come after us and
if one of our listeners
5
was
listeners.
actually a Scientologist, and then they would have to let like their leaders and group listen to the episode.
Yep.
And decide that we were enough of a threat to come after us. It would be flattering. So worst case scenario, after today, the Scientology mafia doesn't come after us. That's just going to be heartbreaking for me because it really seems kind of easy to get under their skin.
It does, I have to say.
So, okay, another difference between the cult and a religion.
Tax status.
It's tax status. Yeah. It's actually the IRS that decides whether or not you're a religion.
Which seems very wrong. I mean,
on so many levels.
On so many levels.
But get this, the IRS was not keen on having Scientology be a religion because they owed the IRS like $1 billion.
Right, because the founder, L. Ron Hubbard, had not been paying taxes, according to the documentary, had not been paying taxes for decades.
Right.
And they owed all of this back taxes. And that was going to be quite a sizable, more than at the time, than the church had in its coffers, I think.
So the Scientology mafia has all of these attorneys, and they just filed lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, basically bogging the IRS down so that it could do nothing but fight Scientology lawsuits until the IRS finally gave up.
Because, the IRS is like every other federal agency and is chronically understaffed and underfunded, right, and is run by a bunch of actuaries and accountants, for heaven's sakes.
So I feel like I would have a hard time beating the IRS.
Well, yes, you yourself, of course you would. But if there were 50,000 of you all bombarding the IRS with lawsuits that they would have to address, then yes.
Voila, they won. IRS said Scientology is a religion. We never have to deal with these fuckers again.
The way it was presented in the documentary was very I don't want to say underhanded, but it was almost an under the table thing where the leader of the Scientology group, what should we call it?
What was his name? There was a guy.
I want to say McGavish, I don't know what his official title was at that time, because Hubbard was gone. I think Hubbard was already dead by the time this all came about.
Right.
He had a meeting with the head of the IRS, whoever that was at the time, and basically said, look, we will fight this all the way. Or if you want this to go away tomorrow, give us our tax exempt status.
Yeah.
And there was a light of reckoning in the IRS guy's eyes that thought, oh, okay, fine. Here's your tax exempt status. And magically, all of those lawsuits were dropped the next day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were successful for sure.
So the difference between a cult and a religion is tax status.
Which just seems wrong on so many levels.
Well, okay,
Suit.
look, the IRS is full of accountants and actuaries and pencil pushers and not theologians.
There should be somebody with a little more credibility that makes that decision, as far as
Right.
I'm concerned, who gets to be a religion or what gets to be a religion and what doesn't. But, no one's asking me.
For sure.
So when I think about some of the things, if we're just talking about Heaven's Gate versus Scientology, they do have some things in common. They both had charismatic leaders, though the T and Doe were the two man and woman that were head of Heaven's Gate, at least for a while. They clearly had a lot of sway over their members. And then L. Ron Hubbard, obviously very charismatic in the Scientology realm. Both of them have a rigid set of beliefs and behaviors that had to be strictly followed, which made their members seem very exclusive and special. And they both isolated their members, though I think Scientology is more to that degree. They both expected their members to cut off ties with the rest of the world, cut off ties with their families, cut off ties with friends. Though, in Scientology, if people wanted out, it was pretty easy to get out.
Yes, but if you still had family members in, they
Yeah.
were never allowed to speak to you again.
Oh, in Scientology, that's for sure.
In Scientology,
I was talking
yes.
about in Heaven's Gate. Maybe I misspoke.
Oh,
But yeah, even the one guy, the poor.
after T died, a lot of them went home.
I think the Doe at that point said, "Hey, everyone, go home and see your family."
Right.
Because I think he was very shaken with
He
her
was. He
passing.
had some grieving to do.
Yes.
And you would have thought, okay, they're going home. They've been shaken to their core. T has died. She did not become an alien. Almost all of them went back
I know.
after going home.
God, I know. And is that because we can't admit when we're wrong?
I mean, were they all just so best friends that this was their family now? I mean, I know if I say, okay, so I'm here in Florida and I'm married to my husband and he's my family now. If I say I'm going home, like to see my parents, it doesn't really feel like home to me anymore.
Oh, true.
Home is here. And maybe that's how they felt. Those people were their home and they went and saw relatives, but didn't feel at home. But gosh, you had a couple of weeks there to convince them that they were wrong. But it's hard. It's hard to convince people they're wrong.
I don't think a couple of weeks is long enough to help someone feel like they
That'll
are
have to be
home.
another episode.
Yes,
How do you
yes.
convince someone of something that they are resolute in?
And maybe we can't.
Clearly, this was an election year. Well,
yeah, right.
Technically last year. Yeah. So clearly it is very difficult to convince someone
Right. So
of
the cult of
anything.
personality is a whole nother subject, but we're going to have to investigate this farther.
We're going to have several episodes involving cults and religions because
for sure.
it
So again,
really touched on two of them.
some of the things that I also want to bring up is many of the followers of both Heaven's Gate and Scientology had a lot in common. I think that most of the members want to feel validated. With
We all wanna feel
Scientology, we all
validated.
want to feel validated, right? With Scientology, they offered we're going to help you get rid of your anxieties.
Mhm.
We have this scientific tool that we can help you get rid of your depression. We can help you feel better about yourself. We can help you get rid of the bonds of your neuroses, really.
I mean, I know several people who would go for that. I see people using pseudoscience all the time with foot soaks and ear candlings and
Right.
essential oils trying to rid themselves of these.
I think it's weirdly human to want to know what happens to us after these bodies are gone.
Sure. And that's a thing we can't know.
No, it's an unanswerable question.
But religion says, I've got your answer.
Yep, they do.
And cults can also say that.
Can also say that. And then last but not least, people who join cults are highly suggestible and they have a tendency towards supernatural or conspiratorial beliefs. And I think that is the case for both the followers of Scientology as well as the followers of Heaven's Gate.
I see that. Because in many ways, cult members are different. A lot of them are very educated.
Mhm.
They are from well-to-do families. Some of them are sort of loners looking for a tribe, but some of them do have families. I think, like you were saying, the common thread is that they are suggestible and prone to a conspiracy theory. I don't quite feel I have everything I need or want or deserve. And why is that?
And why is that? And what can I do about it?
And what can I do about it? And you have the answer. Not to mention that when you start the indoctrination process, they are usually very flattering and loving.
Mhm.
I've heard it called love bombing. They love bomb you. And
Make you feel at home, make you feel accepted, make you feel that, oh my goodness, now you're part of this wonderful, exclusive, special group. We all want to be special.
Yeah, I get warm fuzzies just hearing you say that. I want love. And, it almost reminds me of like the narcissistic parents, the people who gaslight you. So there's all this love. And then all of a sudden you have these tests and these rules that you have to adhere to. These are the things that you have to do to continue getting this love and to continue getting this acceptance. And if something goes wrong, it's you. You weren't trying hard enough, or you did something wrong. And so they keep...
It's not that the beliefs that we're peddling are bad shit. No, it's not that. It's that you're not worthy.
Right.
You just don't believe. You're not ready.
And they will do anything to get back into that happy, lovey, accepted feeling. And, I can't say that either you or I would join a cult because we're far too skeptical. We ask too many questions.
We ask way too many questions.
We're far too curious,
And snarky. We're too snarky.
Yes. For trouble with authority. So many things.
I'm sure we'd get kicked out pretty quick, actually.
That wanting to belong and feel loved and accepted. I know for a fact there are many people who would do whatever it took, even if it meant convincing themselves that this wacky stuff, that this voice in their head is saying this can't be true.
Yeah.
Quieting that down so that we can stay in this group of people who love us.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I want my followers for a UFO cult, then first of all, I don't
You don't lead with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't lead with that. I don't follow what Heaven's Gate did because they actually, membership actually declined. So I start with love bombing.
Yep.
And being very acceptant. And so I'm going to have a hard time starting a cult because
you are way too snarky.
I'm not warm and fuzzy. But you start with love bombing and then you start isolating them.
Mm-hmm.
You only hang out with us and stop spending time with the non-believers. And then pretty soon we are their family and none of these other people feel like family.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like in Scientology, you don't hear about the aliens until you've been in for years and years and paid thousands and thousands of dollars, or unless you've watched this documentary, which
I'm thinking has blown their cover.
Yeah, but they don't watch the documentary or the news because
they distrust the outside world.
They distrust the outside world, and they're told that media is bad, that people will going to try to get you out of here. They call us a cult. They're already provided with this armor.
Very true.
That when you hear someone giving you reasons why you're in a cult and you should get out, they already know, oh, well, our leader said that this would happen. And it's definitely coming true. It is happening. And they are doing that. And it's us, them. There's a total us, them mentality. So,
for sure. That's another very common thread in all cults.
So, and I think in a way that makes them feel special, though, the us, them.
Oh, yeah.
Only you and us select few know the truth. But it starts out with being likable. And I'm still stuck on that.
You're likable. I don't know what you're talking about. You're lovable.
All right, I'd have you do that part. Oh, yeah. We forgot our segment. Or maybe recurring, maybe not, segment called Catchphrases We Wish We Had. This week, it's obviously from My Favorite Murder. One of their catchphrases is call your dad, you're in a cult.
I love it.
Yes. So when you hear somebody, I don't know, tell you about Scientology or their multi-level marketing scheme or CrossFit, you say to them, call your dad, you're in a cult.
In a cult. We do. We need a better catchphrase, maybe.
Or a catchphrase. Yeah. So that's a catchphrase we wish we had. When we come up with a catchphrase, we will also put that on our super cool merchandise.
Absolutely. All right, let's leave it there. Thank you, weirdos. We appreciate you. And if you haven't already gone to your favorite podcast app and subscribed, we would really appreciate it. And oh gosh, if you're feeling really cultish with us, then give us a review. All right. Talk to you later.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Crap, I can't read this. Sorry. All right. I need the microphone right here for the
But
sound.
then it's hard to see.
But then I can't see the paper. So
Right.
that's a problem. That's a problem for me. Okay.
We need
Let's
to
try
watch
it.
YouTube videos of people recording podcasts. Like, how do you see the stuff with the microphone right in your face?
Right in your face. Ah.
Google
Okay.
Glass.
Ugh.